additions or corrections? Look for a motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Betterbid.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson. Mr. McCracken.
Yes.
Mr. Rich.
Yes.
Mr. Reese. Ms. Brigalo.
Yes.
Chairman Thomas.
Yes. Dunbar Homes interpretation.
Let me tell you, there are 5 people who are eligible to vote. Mr. McCracken, Mr. Rich, Mr. Rosenthal, Mr. Reese, and Chairman Thomas. So those are the 5 that can then vote on this matter.
All right, we need a motion.
I'll move it.
Mr. McCracken,
Yes.
Mr. Rich,
Yes.
Mr. Rosenthal,
Yes.
Mr. Reese, Chairman Thomas.
Yes. Family Dollar Store, ZBA 13-00025.
On this matter, Mr. Betterbid, Mr. Rosenthal, and Ms. Brigalo. 3.
Need a motion?
Move.
Second.
Mr. McCracken,
Yes.
Mr. Rosenthal,
Yes.
Ms. Brigalo.
Yes.
On Mattson, we have Mr. Betterbid, Mr. McCracken, Mr. Rosenthal, Ms. Brigalo, and Chairman Thomas.
Okay, Mattson, ZBA 13-00024. We need a motion.
I'll move it. Second.
Mr. Betterbid, Mr.
Yes.
McCracken,
Yes.
Mr. Rosenthal,
Yes.
Ms. Brigalo,
Yes.
Chairman Thomas.
Yes. Under discussion, vouchers, Mr. Bradshaw, March retainers, $865. Is there a motion to approve?
Move that we approve.
And a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Relief of conditions, Franklin Nursing, ZBA 12-00001, and it looks like a well-rested suntan Mr. Linus here.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just very, very briefly, they've made some modifications to the architectural style of the building, and discussing this with Mr. Linus, because the board spent some time on the architecture. While staff believes it's an improvement, you guys did spend some time looking at that, so we figured it was only appropriate to get a relief of conditions. So Mr. Linus is here to extremely briefly go over those changes so we can all go home and watch some basketball.
Or at least I can go home. You have a rest of the agenda, right? Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Adjustment, members of the public, Francis P. Linus, 21 Clyde Road, Somerset, New Jersey. As some of you board members may recall, in July of 2012, this board granted approval for a 161-bed skilled nursing facility at 780 Old New Brunswick Road. Franklin Nursing is my client, and they're the applicant
One moment.
at this point.
Let the record show, Mr. Caldwell.
Mr. Caldwell's arrived at 7:33.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, during the course of resolution compliance, the architect determined that due to some technical difficulties with energy codes and things of that nature, that to place the hardy plank as the exterior would not work. Since the board saw the hardy plank exterior as part of our elevations and part of our plans, and we requested the change based on those technical difficulties, we now are proposing to switch over to a portion of the building in stucco. We had one review, and that was by Mark Healy, and I believe we've satisfied Mr. Healy's comments. If you look to your right, that's how the front will look with the new proposed changes. So I do have with me my architect, Barry Bromer, as well as a representative of my client, in case the board had any questions. And by the way, the project is proceeding. I understand the foundation's in, and
Yep.
they're getting ready to complete.
We see it on the way to the shop, right? Yep.
This you're introducing as evidence.
Mark at A1, yes.
Based on the evidence, does anyone have any questions or comments or discussion?
There was no notice on this, so you do not have to open it to the public.
Anybody need any more information to grant relief?
No.
I will entertain a motion.
Just a change.
Bruce?
Okay. I recommend that we accept the relief of conditions outlined in the presentation with the stucco and the exhibit
A1.
A1.
Is there a second?
Second.
If there's no discussion, poll the board.
Mr. Betterbid?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson? Mr. McCracken?
Yes.
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenthal?
Yes.
Chairman Thomas?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Now, you see when you bring these applications instead of billboards, there's a much quicker evening.
Actually, there's going to be a billboard. No doubt about that one.
The Jewish Home and Health Care Center, ZBA.
Now, Mr. Chairman, I maybe have the wrong agenda, that the David Nosworthy.
Oh, I'm sorry, David Nosworthy, ZBA 13-00007. This is a hardship variance in which the applicant seeks a side yard variance for an already constructed chimney, 115 4th Street, Somerset, Block 461, Lot 1.01, in the R20 zone. I think Mr. Dominic is handling.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. In fact, we, the township, did the notice. In 2005, the applicant got all the necessary permits, got all the necessary approvals. The then zoning officer did not notice that there was an encroachment. Subsequently, he's just cleaning up it right now and getting the final CO on the house after some issues, and we discovered that the variance that was required. So we did the application. He's here this evening, of course. He should
Is
come
there-
up, just
is
put
there any-
himself on the record, but we only have the one report. There were some existing variances that were there before the property. We're just cleaning it up, but it was our issue. The house has been there for 9-10 years. There hasn't been any issue. It's only a couple feet that the chimney is into the setback.
Fairly
Is there any,
simple.
or are there any other members of the public here for this application? Does the
couple
board
feet
need any
all on
further
the side.
information? Then we'll entertain a motion. This is basically our fault, so.
Yeah, it was.
I move that we accept the hardship variances that are presented in ZBA 13-00007 for a side yard variance for an already constructed chimney at 115 4th Street, Somerset.
We need a second?
Second.
Mr. Betterbid,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson, Mr. McCracken,
Yes.
Mr. Rich.
Yes.
Mr. Rosenthal,
Yes.
Chairman Thomas.
Yes, okay. Good luck with what you've already built. Jewish Home and Health Care Center, ZBA 14-00001. Minor subdivision in which the applicant's attempting to perfect their property boundaries included in prior board applications at 330 Demont Lane, Block 386.07, lots 54.03, 54.05, 55.02 in the R20 zone. This was carried from March 6th with no further
Yeah,
notification.
Mr. Chairman, this will be another hopefully very quick one, as you noticed in the agenda. This was fully approved, it just was not perfected. So they are just here to have it reapproved so they can perfect it. If you remember, there's another application that they're in the process of, they'll be building the new building there, and until they clean this up, we can't approve those plans because there was an issue with not filing the subdivision, so.
Okay,
By the way, Pete Gallagher on behalf
But your microphone is not on.
Turn it on.
Tap it.
Better?
That's
Yeah.
okay.
Pete Gallagher on behalf of the applicant. That, as succinctly as possible, explains why we're here. There was a site plan approval was granted in 2001, and for some reason, it was never perfected by our client. So we're here to essentially to refresh the approval so that we can go forward with the plan. We have our engineer here to explain, if the board so desires, briefly the history of the approval and what happened and why we're here, or in the alternative, just to answer any questions the board might have, whichever the board prefers.
how much information do we need for this? Nothing's changed.
It's
Right.
it's
been
exactly the
approved.
same, it's just a reapproval.
Right, no new construction, no nothing, same
Yeah,
exact.
Nothing's going to physically change as a result of what we're doing.
Correct.
No, we're just moving the line where we thought it was.
Right.
Okay, you tell me what you need. If you have any questions, any discussion, anyone? Otherwise, we'll have a motion and get this out.
Okay, I move that we approve the application to perfect the minor subdivision for the Jewish Home and Healthcare Center at 330 Demont Lane in Somerset.
Second, someone?
Second.
Mr. Betterbid,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson, Mr. McCracken,
Yes.
Mr. Rich,
Yes.
Mr. Rosenthal.
Yes.
Chairman Thomas.
Yes, good luck. Okay, Center for Great Expectations, ZBA 14-00004, amended site plan with use variance in which the applicant's proposing a 1,100 square foot addition at 19 Delwood Lane, Somerset, block 424.04, lot 39.09 in the R20 zone.
Told you it's going to be quick. She thought I was kidding that we were going to be quick.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Catherine Kopp from the Law Office of Peter U. Lanford, 3000 Hadley Road, Suite 1C in South Plainfield, New Jersey, appearing on behalf of the applicant, the Center for Great Expectations. Briefly, before I bring up my first witness, just a brief summary about the application. As Mr. Healy's report and my planner, as Mr. Healy's report indicates and my planner will testify, this application involves an inherently beneficial use for the addition of 4 new bedrooms, as well as some common area space for the center's clients to use while they are with the center. This site was the subject of an application in 2005 for a use variance to allow the center to be constructed at its current location. Obviously, the use was granted back in 2005. We are now seeking to expand simply by adding some common area and 4 bedrooms. I'd like to call my first witness, Peg Wright.
Good evening. Nice to see you all. My name is Peg Wright. I'm the founder and CEO of the Center for Great Expectations.
And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, Ms. Wright, can you explain to the board briefly what the Center for Great Expectations does?
Yes, the Center for Great Expectations provides residential treatment for pregnant and parenting women, adults, and pregnant and parenting adolescents on our residential site. We also occupy 16 permanent supportive housing units at Avalon Bay, directly adjacent or behind the 2 residential sites. And we currently provide intensive outpatient treatment to indigent women at St. Peter's Clinic on Howe Lane in Middlesex.
And how long has the center been in existence?
I incorporated the center in 1998,
And how long have you been at your current location?
since the fall of 2008.
Okay, and did you participate in the application that the board approved in 2005?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And how many clients do you currently serve at this on-site?
We have 16 mothers and approximately 16 infants and children at this time.
Okay, and has the state of New Jersey recognized a need for the types of services provided by the center?
We consistently have a waiting list, and we have recently secured a request for proposal to add 4 additional units for our adolescent mothers.
Okay, and how is the center funded?
We currently have, for total across the board, we have a $3 million budget. The center raises approximately 40% of our annual revenue, or a little over $1 million.
Haven't
Okay.
we provided you funding in our
You
C?
certainly have,
Right?
sir.
I just want to put that on the record.
Fantastic.
The township has provided funding so the township understands the importance of the center.
Not only has the township provided funding, but I reviewed the records before coming before this board and learned that currently, since we've opened, we have approximately 300 families in the immediate area that support the center, which is just fantastic, including Rutgers Prep and Avalon Bay, We have Dr. Denise Rogers coming to visit us, who was the president of UNDNJ Rutgers at that merge. And we have a lot of very significant relationships with Rutgers University now in the areas of research. So we're doing a great job. My staff, they're wonderful.
Okay, and during the time that the center's been at your current location, have any of the neighbors made complaints that you're aware of?
One about light, and I failed to tell you this, but we had to move the light in the parking lot.
Okay, but aside from one light complaint, there've been no other complaints about the center?
No.
Okay. And if the application is approved, how many new clients are you proposing to serve?
We'll have 4 additional adolescent clients and potentially 8 infants.
Okay, and will the addition of these 4 more clients, will that add the need for staff?
No, we're in good shape. And that's probably one of the most exciting things for us, because with the economic downturn and just the way things have been going, sustainability is critical. And an economy of scale is a big issue. So this will afford us the ability to meet an economy of scale and allow us to be much more sustainable. So we're excited about that.
Okay, and if the application is approved, will the addition of 4 more clients and their children change any other aspect of the way the center operates?
No,
Okay. And are the clients allowed to have cars on site?
not at all.
Okay, and except for the 4 additional residents that are being proposed in the adolescent unit, you agree that all conditions of the 2005 resolution are in effect and will remain in effect in the future?
Absolutely.
Okay. I have no further questions for this witness.
Anything from the board?
Will the parking be okay?
We don't have any additional staff, so we're fine.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I have a question. I don't know if you're the right witness for this, but the paperwork says this is a D1 variance. So how is this different from your original approval?
My engineer and planner will be testifying to that. He'll discuss that later.
Okay. Is it that they're adolescents and not adults?
It's a mistake.
We believe that, as my planner will testify later, and my engineer, he believes that it's actually a D2, so he'll discuss that later during his testimony.
Okay.
Anything else? We'll wait and open to the public at the end, so you can go on.
Okay. I'm gonna call my next witness, Antoinette Mitterando, my architect.
Please state and spell your name for the record.
Antoinette Mitterando, A-N-T-O-N-E-T-T-E, Mitterando, M-I-T-T-E-R-A-N-D-O.
And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Can you give the board the benefit of your educational and professional background, please?
I graduated from College of Engineering Rutgers as a mechanical engineer. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey and Pennsylvania. I'm a registered architect in the state of New Jersey. I have my master's in business, and I'm LEED certified for AP construction and new building.
Okay, and have you,
That's fine.
okay, thank you. And can you describe for the board the changes that are being proposed in the current application?
Yes, it's a 2-story with a finished basement. In the basement, we have a medical exam room, which is going to support the relationships that PEG has with the Robert Johnson, that they have a facility to have exams. We have a consultation room, very similar. Additional play area by benefit of the 4 bedrooms that are above. We've gained that space to add additional play area for the infants. And we have a utility room that's going to support our our sump pump, and a utility sink with a mechanical room for our HVAC unit that will supply the basement. That's the basement. The first floor has 2 additional bedrooms, an expanded dining area to accommodate the extra people, a yoga room, which they have found to be beneficial. It's part of their program, actually, and they're working that into it. And we also have a quiet space with computers so that they can have a learning, bring in learning and education, and as well as a counselor that has available space right there local. On the second floor, we're adding 2 additional bedrooms. The second floor prior had 8 full bedrooms. We are adding 2 on the first floor and 2 on the second floor with a common space, and that is it. They each have bathrooms.
Okay, and can you describe the appearance of the addition for the board, please?
It is identical. If you can see these lines,
Sorry, if we may, Mark, this is Exhibit A1.
if I were to put my hand across this paper, and you would see the new, this is what's existing. It's an extension to match identical. Fascia, finish, color, everything is identical. It just looks in scale slightly larger from the front. From the rear, it's got the double peak. It's just an add-on. This is the existing. That's proposed. And from the side, in fact, the side view is identical. It's just extended out and redone.
Okay, and can you tell the board what kind of mechanical equipment will be located outside?
Just the condenser units or split units. It's very similar to what you have in your residence. If you have air conditioning, you'll see those little round cylinders there on the outside with little tiny fans that go on. There'll be 2. One air handling unit will be located in the basement. It will serve the basement, and one will be located in the attic serving the second floor and the first floor. And these 2 HVAC units will have their condensers located outside the exterior to the side, not visible from the street.
Okay, and will there be any noise from the outdoor mechanical equipment?
You would have to be standing practically adjacent to hear those small fans going off. They're very similar to what you have at your own homes. And these are scaled, think about it, they're 1,000 square feet. It is a small home.
Okay, and will there be any changes to the outdoor playground?
None.
Okay, no further questions for this witness?
Anything from the board? Go ahead.
Okay, and I'd like to call my next and last witness, Jeremy Lang.
Please state and spell your name for the record.
Jeremy Lang, Jeromie, and it's Lange.
And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Lang, can you describe your educational and professional background for the board, please?
Certainly. I'm a graduate of Rutgers University in the field of civil engineering. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey and a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey. I have been practicing in New Jersey for approximately 20 years.
That's fine.
Okay. And can you describe the site as it currently exists?
Certainly. I'm going to put up what I'm going to mark as Exhibit A2, which is titled Aerial Photograph, exhibit for the Center for Great Expectations. It's an aerial photograph with an image date of 9/18/2013, and it's a perspective view looking down on the center, with the center's 2 existing buildings being located in the center of the photograph. As I just mentioned, there are 2 existing buildings on the site already, which is known as 19 Delwood Lane. In front of that, there's a small parking lot with 14 parking stalls, 2 of which are for handicap accessibility. The other 12 are across the driveway and are unrestricted. The driveway is a loop-type circulation. No aspect of the circulation nor the parking will change as a result of the application. The expansion that Antoinette just covered will happen immediately adjacent to the second building here, which is the lower one in this exhibit. And will be about 1,088 square feet in footprint area.
Okay, and can you describe the proposed changes to the site?
What's going to happen, the ground elevation along the extended part of the building will become the new part of the front is already at the grade it needs to be, so there'll be no grading changes in front of the building. Obviously, along the side of the building, that area will be excavated out to accommodate the basement level. And then there's an existing retaining wall, which you can just see in the photograph here, that comes into the corner. What happens is behind the buildings, the basement is like a full story, essentially. It's a walkout basement, as it's commonly referred to. We're going to maintain that for the addition. So the retaining wall, which now meets the existing corner, will be relayed to come over and meet the new proposed corner about 25 feet further out. This area behind the building is relatively flat. The drainage is less than ideal. So what we're going to do in that location is place 3 yard inlets and regrade some of this back area just so that the water flows into those inlets. And then also there's an existing playground, which from the distance you're out, you probably can't see, but take my word for it, there's an existing playground behind the building. It's a relatively flat area, has a safety surface on it, tends to hold water. So what we're going to do is pick up the safety surface, slope it down from both sides, make like a trough, and then basically along the bottom of that trough we're going to put an under drain, which is going to be a 12-inch high-density polyethylene pipe. It'll be perforated, it'll be encased in stone, and then basically the water will have a way to drain through the safety surface down into that under drain, where it will then continue on and be discharged out just beyond the edge of the playground area. And that's consistent with how the water flows today. We'll just make it a little bit of a better flow path in that any residual water will be trapped in the under drain below the play surface so that the children are not exposed to that constant wetness and saturation of the safety surface.
Okay, and can you tell the board whether there's going to be any major changes to the landscaping on the property?
No, there will be no changes actually whatsoever to the landscaping.
Okay, and with regard to the parking, can you explain to the board what parking is required?
Currently, this is a very unique use in a lot of ways, so neither the ordinance nor the residential site improvement standards address parking for this specific use. Our proposal is that there is actually no change in the parking demand because as Peg testified to, there will be no additional staff coming to the facility, and residents now and will continue to be prohibited from owning or bringing vehicles to the center. So it's really only staff that drives either trips or parking at the site. And since that will be a static number, there will be no change, and the parking is functioning very well as the facility operates today.
Okay, and can you tell the board, as far as parking is concerned, what is existing?
As I testified earlier, there are 14 parking stalls total, 2 handicap and 12 unrestricted.
Okay. And is any additional traffic going to be created as a result of the addition?
No.
Okay, and in your opinion as a professional planner, are there any unique aspects to this application?
Just to address the question from Cheryl before, a D1 variance would be if there was a brand new use or something different happening at the site, and I believe that was the genesis of the question. There's not a change in use proposed. This building, the one we've been discussing all evening, that's the adolescent building, mother-child building. That use is going to continue. These 4 new mother-child units will be the exact same use, service the same type of clientele, have the same type of services provided to them as the existing 8. So there is no change in use. We are simply expanding the building that's housing the use and, of course, increasing the number of clients served. Either way, whether it was a D1 or a D2, it is an inherently beneficial use. The facility has 4 different state licenses for the various services they provide. As Peg had testified, there is definitely an unmet need in the state. The state had put out last year a request for proposals. The center responded, and they were in fact awarded a contract, or at least opportunity for a contract to fund this site. The inherently beneficial status has been confirmed, but actually previously by this board as well as the board's planner, and of course I concur that that status is accurate. The site is particularly well suited, first and foremost because this is an expansion of an existing use. So there's very little extra infrastructure that has to be built. All the existing infrastructure in terms of the service providers and the buildings, common areas like the parking, the playground, the solar facilities, all that's already there. So it makes an expansion a very desirable way to provide additional services because we're not rebuilding all that infrastructure in an alternate location. The site is very proximate to St. Peter's Hospital, to Robert Wood Johnson, as everybody knows, which makes these partnerships that you heard described in Peg's testimony possible. Also, the site is immediately behind the recently constructed Avalon Bay application, which is a 384 unit project, but 16 of those units are dedicated to the Center for Permanent Supportive Housing. In terms of the municipal land use law, the first purpose actually identified in the law has to do with the promotion of public health and general welfare. Clearly, this facility and its mission is accomplishing that. In terms of potential negative consequences, I find that there are none. There are a multitude of reasons for that. First, although this is the R20 zone and what would be at face value a single-family zone, in this actual location, there are not single-family homes. We've got the McCarrick Care Center on one side, Avalon Bay on the other, and they're both arguably types of multifamily uses. There are single-family homes to the north, and then a little bit further south, off the page here, but over on DeMott Lane, of course, there are residential units. The units on DeMott Lane have a very substantial wooded buffer, and there's just simply no opportunity to even see the center at all. There are a couple neighbors here that have a line of sight to the center, and although there's a wooded buffer here, it's not that thick. The understory is somewhat thin, so it is possible to see the center. However, the expansion is occurring at the farthest possible point away from those homes, and it will actually be hidden behind both buildings. So from the perspective of these homes, this is not going to be a really identifiable expansion. And again, without any traffic increase or anything like that, there's really not going to be a way to tell, other than temporarily during construction, of course. But once that's completed, there won't be really a way for these residents to tell that. The site is in Sector 3 of the Township planning areas. It's identified in both the 1999 and 2006 master plans as being an R20 zone, which is, of course, the current zoning. That zone permits for single-family uses, but it also permits, conditionally anyway, community residences. And we would actually meet those conditions, but for the definition of a community residence does not include the specific licenses that this facility has. The ordinance is set up more for domestic violence and mentally disabled, that type of use, which is, of course, very similar, but not exactly what is going on here. So I think it meets the spirit and intent of the ordinance, although not the letter of the law, so to speak. So just in summary, I think the project advances the public good, takes advantage of its location, both regionally and locally. The expansion is really not visible either from the neighbors or from any public roadway. And it's consistent with the zone plan, the deviation really being more of a technicality as opposed to a substantive issue.
Okay, and have you had a chance to review the staff reports?
Yes. Very few comments having to do with the staff reports. Actually, we already went over parking calculations, which is item 3 in the engineer's report.
Yeah, if there's anything that you can't meet or that you want to work out with the engineer, just put that on the record. Everything else you don't have to mention. So if there are a couple items you just need to work out, just put that on the record and you'll work it out with the engineer.
Sure. There's really only 2 issues, both having to do with stormwater. Items 10, 11, and 12 all have to do with the local ordinance's stormwater provisions. It's my position that because this is a residential project, that this would be...
Yeah, you don't have to explain to the board,
Okay.
those are all technical issues. We just like to have it on the record, because in case
Sure.
you can't work it out with him, then we have another record that you can come back and talk to the board, but we've never had an issue where someone had to come back to the board, so.
Excellent. So it'd just be 10, 11, 12, and 15, again, all related to stormwater.
Good.
Okay, and then we can comply with all of the other requests, or
Yes.
any other conditions in the staff reports.
Yes.
Okay, and will the requested changes in the staff reports affect what the board is seeing in front of them today?
No, these are really technical issues.
Okay, I have no further questions.
Anything from the board?
I have one question. Are there going to be any visitors?
The site does allow visitors up to 6 p.m. However, it's highly regulated and controlled. People just can't show up unannounced. It's a very controlled environment.
Is it for weekends or during the week, or?
For that level of detail, I'm going to let Peg...
The clients in the adolescent facility are, for the most part, without families. So visiting is limited, practically nil, and in fact, most visitors are DIFAS workers.
Any other questions? All right, we have one member of the public. If you would like to ask any questions or make a comment, this is your...
No comments or questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anything you want to say? Summary?
So just to sum up, I think we'd like to request that the board approve this application as submitted As the project is, as Mr. Healy indicated, and my planner and engineer indicated, an inherently beneficial use, we really see no downside to allowing the expansion. If anything, they're doing their part to help alleviate an already unmet a need that unfortunately can't be completely done away with, but, so with that, I'd request that the board approve the application as submitted.
Okay, any questions, discussions, or motions? It's already a use we approved, so we're not really involved with that part of it.
I just wanted, it does seem to me that it's an expansion of a non-conforming use rather than the
No,
straight.
it's a D1.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
We could talk about it later, but
Okay.
we've consistently had the D1. We should have a conversation about that, about how we deal with that, so we can do
Okay.
that. But we consistently consider this a D1,
Okay.
just for the record.
All right. But in any event, the testimony was convincing that there will be no impairment to the zone plan and master plan and no detriment to the public good, I think.
Okay, anything else? Anyone want to offer a motion?
Okay, I would move that we accept the application to expand a residential center for pregnant, homeless women and teens at the Center for Great Expectations, 19 Delwood Lane, Somerset, in the R20 zone with a D1 variance.
CBA.
I guess we could add any of the
prior
items.
resolution will still, all the conditions of the
Staff
prior
reports
resolution will still be in effect. Yeah.
Dealt with the individuals involved. Any second?
Second.
Mr. Betterbid,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. McCracken,
Yes.
Mr. Rich.
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell,
Yes.
Mr. Rosenthal,
Yes.
Chairman Thomas.
Yes, and good luck with it.
Thank you.
Terrific.
Okay, anything anybody has for the board? Otherwise, we'll have
Move that we adjourn.